We had a very lively discussion a week ago. In fact, we held you over for an extra segment. But look, we're all looking at the poll numbers. Let me just lay this out, and then you can dive into it. We're all looking at the poll numbers. Trump's ahead of every swing state. He's ahead of Biden nationally, which, is hard for him to do. So he's got traction. He's way ahead in the primaries. But then everybody's concern is, what good is the lead in the polls if they're going to cheat and steal the election like they did in 2020? So how do we combat this? And we got 18 months.
What has happened is that the election management, which government must perform in an objective fashion, has been taken over by private interests, particularly in the urban core of the swing states, so that the services are managed by private interests. Many of them involve private-public contracts that are not revealed. They involve actions and conduct that don't survive scrutiny and don't allow scrutiny, increasingly so. There is a big effort to chill any type of speech that challenges the way that elections are managed. Additionally, there's not requirements that members of all parties be present as absentee ballots are managed and handled. And all of that eliminates a prophylactic measure that prevents fraud. What I mean by that is that if you don't follow these rules, the fraud becomes almost impossible to detect. And it's like we are disarming our policies across the nation that will allow the public to be in the counting room. And we're doing that in a widespread fashion, and we're not addressing it. Most of the reform measures don't address this problem, and how the left is shifting and altering their approaches for the same objective, and that is to allow for a dark and non-penetrable space to manage core government functions relating to elections. So we're not addressing it. I don't see it in any legislation moving forward to fix this problem. And John, 20 years ago, both parties would come together and say, hey, we can't run elections in this way. America will lose faith in the management of the elections. We need to make government accountable. We need to have elections that are transparent and that are inclusive. But now we don't have that anymore. We have a party that believes that elections should be opaque, hard for Americans to understand, and exclude parties that they believe have engaged in wrongdoing. So that's a real danger. And what you see, you don't just see it in elections. You have to look at the fundamental assumptions as it relates to our political leaders. For quite some time, Congress has assumed, and the executive has assumed, that it can fix all the problems in America. And the left is now in the position, and you can hear it in their language, and you can see it in their actions. Just recently, the Biden administration has issued a new rule, and they're doing this across the board, but as it relates to home mortgages, where it has now implemented a hidden tax on those with good credit getting home mortgages so they can subsidize bad mortgages. We've had a more direct tax with that, with the federal government assisting as it relates to risky mortgages in the past, but now it's a new rule, and we're going to increase mortgages for those who have high interest or great credit by about $40 a month if you have a kind of a little bit over average home mortgage. And we're going to shift that over so the government can fund riskier mortgages. This is happening all through government. And it begins with this, that government can fix the problems, that communities and those locally are not best doing it, but government can structure society to create this utopia. And with that assumption, you believe that all monies are government monies to begin with, not the individuals. And that eliminates a whole heck of a lot of freedom. And it has the assumption that government will best use those monies to invest in America. That's why you see this, we need more money in government to invest in our children. But government can't create wealth. Individuals create wealth. Government only has the power of coercion and the gun. So if you don't pay this, you don't do this, we're going to arrest you. And it's a false assumption to believe government can generate wealth. And so let's just look at what's happening right now. Those who believe and have been telling you we must give more money to government to invest in our children, have mortgaged our children's future. 31 trillion of national debt. We're over 6% of those monies that we're paying out on national debt now. Think about the amount of that we've put on our children's backs to pay. And America is a lot less wealthy than it used to be because of this. $31 trillion, of which over 6% is just interest on what's been borrowed before. So the government that keeps telling you we need more money to invest in our children has spent money that the next generation won't have to spend on their dreams, their hopes, their future, because now we've decided that government's better than this, than families and community. So if you have a group in charge who believes that fundamental principle, why not alter election management so they can accomplish their objective? Because their objective, the perfect society as they see it, not Americans exercising freedom with responsibility. No, them determining how that society is shaped, how people think, how they dedicate their life, how they spend their wealth. That society is so important to them that they're willing to manipulate.
So what is their look, Phil? It's